Hi there. Welcome to the first episode of Play and Ponder with PlotWeaver Cards of Creation. I'm Matt Gardner, co-founder of ModHub Cooperative, an educational technology cooperative based in Quebec, Canada. I'm a systems thinker and co-designer of PlotWeaver. PlotWeaver is a storytelling game, a creative writing tool, and a thinking exercise all in one. These Play and Ponder sessions are where we use it live, making up stories as we go, and then talk about what comes out of it. Joining me is ModHub's co-founder, Miriam Shoja, the learning systems architect behind PlotWeaver. The game is, in many ways, the product of her approach, weaving together storytelling, systems thinking, and learning design.
Thanks, Matt. I'm Mariam Shoja, and I'll be co-hosting this episode with Matt. In this episode, we're joined by two people who each bring something distinct to a creative session. Marty Handfield is a professional storyteller, voice actor, and self-described AI-free headhunter. He brings a deeply human-centered perspective to everything he does, and as you'll hear, a very good sense of comic timing. Scott DeJong is a Fulbright Scholar whose research focuses on information literacy and the role games play in helping people think more critically and ask better questions. He's a game designer and an educator who takes play seriously. PlotWeaver works a bit like parallel solitaire. Everyone draws from the same plot pattern and the same story element card decks, but builds their own story act by act. The structure is shared. The imagination is yours. At the end of each act, everyone shares what they've written before moving on. It's a joyful creative session where every challenge is an invitation to delve deeper into your imagination. Let's get started by going back to December 2024 when this Play and Ponder session was recorded.
Welcome to your first game of PlotWeaver. This is going to be fun. As you know, we're going to draw cards for every act. This is going to bring the randomness out of your minds, and then we're going to have 15 minutes where you're going to plan your stories, and then we're going to tell our stories. So today we're doing the inverted structure. We're starting with the immediate conflict or crisis, the explanation, cause and crisis, and then the climatic resolution. So we're going to start here with this page. These are the cards you're going to get. So your main goal for the immediate conflict or crisis is drop the protagonist into an urgent conflict or dangerous situation that demands an immediate response. Your sub goals are to set the scene and the immediate response. Now you're going to be given a character card, a setting card, and a conflict card. Do we want to play genre? We don't have to.
Yeah. I'd like that.
Okay, so we want to use genre.
Why not? I did challenge it all.
So Scott's the orphan in a backyard retreat, and his conflict is a reoccurring nightmare. And the genre is magic realism. And then for Martin, it is the guardian in a space station, the conflict of good versus evil, and the genre is a comedy. I'm going to set the clock for 15 minutes, and we can start now.
Great, so as we heard for this session, we selected the inverted plot pattern, which is a 3-act story arc that begins at the moment of crisis and works backward to uncover what caused it. Scott is working with the magic realism genre, with an orphan as the main character and the setting of a backyard retreat. The character is haunted by a recurring nightmare as a conflict.
And Marty takes us into comedy. A guardian aboard a space station caught in a conflict of good versus evil. The story element cards are drawn. Let's see what they'll do with them. Hey, is everyone feeling?
Good. Very good.
Good. So, Scott, did you want to share with us your first act?
Oh, sure. Yeah. Okay. I'll just read it out. I don't know how good this is, but who cares, right? I pretty much just wrote it like a narrative, thinking around kind of the 4 things that you gave me. So I have fingers like ice curled around your head, wrapping, lurching at your face, peeling back your eyelids as if embedding themselves into the vessels behind your pupils. You've uttered a scream only to have found a flood in your mouth silencing you. You awake, spluttering back fountain water. Damn it, you think, as you lift your head and push your wet hair away from your eyes. Another daydream. This one more suffocating than the last. You look around, you remember slipping into this backyard for a breather to rest. A swing sways back and forth in the breeze, and ivy curls up the marble fountain in front of you to a statue. You make out a woman with hair coiling down the ivy to their feet. She is stunning, her form matching the drips of water that come out of her, each falling in from her dress into the fountain, almost sparkling in the cracks of light that sprinkle through the wooden lattice above. You gather your bearings. You're alone as is the norm for you. You look up at the fountain, attempting to calm your body from the dream, still feeling as if your eyes are being pulled at by the water on your cheeks. You sigh. What do I do now? You ask the statue hopelessly. She turns, stone scraping, and replies with a steely gaze. You leave. Be gone from this place. Solitude is for the weary, not the wicked. You feel the water slowly turn to ice, forming into the tendrils from your dream and etching itself down your face, burrowing into your flesh. Your hands look to wipe it off, but they too are covered in water, and your muscles stiffen as the cold embeds itself into the sinew. So you run, smashing out the garden door and onto the street, hoping the sun will warm your body. Over your shoulder, you see her staring, watching with blue eyes almost piercing, as if telling you that this is not your place. This rest will not come. You scurry onto the street, breathing heavily as the sun crashes against your body. That's where we end.
Damn.
Wow. Amazing.
And you wrote it in a second person, like what's that novel, Bright Shining Lights or something? There's a novel about a guy being drawn to the city or something. I remember reading that
Bright Lights, Big City?
story of a downfall of someone who falls into the city and that, drug and party, but it was written in the second person, like you like,
Yeah, I really like second person because if you play with kind of how people see themselves in that space, and with like magical realism, I thought it'd be cool to like play with like the idea of feeling for both the reader and the protagonist at large.
A 10-year 10.
What a pickle I'm in, thought Slim as he surveyed the cafeteria in utter disbelief. The artificial gravity is down, food and comrades floating through the air, intermixed with a gelatinous, greenish substance that had to be that alien life form. The one he was told must be kept in strict quarantine. And, of course, the captain was nowhere to be seen. He had, for all intents and purposes, vanished through thin air. Or had he been vaporized? Slim couldn't tell through the fog in his mind. Damn this space moonshine, he thought for the umpteenth time, as his colleagues muttered, laughed, and generally behaved like the village idiots in some backwater agri-planet. They'll teach me to start celebrating too soon, he thought while trying to swim through the air, or at least maintain a somewhat upright position. Not that it mattered much. In space, up is wherever you want it to be. Down, just the same. But it's still nice to have everything nice and tidy once in a while. Above all, though, he had to steer clear of that alien oops. That had to be quarantined for a damn good reason. He was sure of it. Heavens forbid it was from that unspeakably evil alien race of the Gambits. The Gambits were dead set on kicking human arse throughout the universe for the sheer pleasure of the hunt. Notches on their space belt and whatnot. What a damn pickle Slim was in.
That was really good. Wow. That kind of had, for some reason, I was almost thinking like Alien meets Galaxy Quest meets Douglas Adams, kind of like. In that
So good. Yeah, looking forward to the rest.
I hope you enjoyed the first act of the stories as much as we did. It's always fascinating to hear how the players weave together the story element cards, creating the first threads of meaning and the foundation of the story.
Before we hear what happens next, if you're curious to try PlotWeaver Cards of Creation yourself, the free starter plan is available for all who are curious about the art and craft of storytelling. You can explore 2 of the 6 plot patterns and play with the full range of story element card decks.
All the links are in the show notes. Now, let's continue to Act 2.
With that, so we're going into Act 2, which is now the explanation or the explanation cause analysis. So we're going to take a step back and explore the deeper causes and motivations behind the initial crisis. So the sub goals are to uncover hidden truths and build understanding. We have a new card for you, Scott. We've got the Herald, the messenger who brings significant news, signaling a new beginning and transformative challenges. And for you, Martin, we have the trickster.
Got it. Oh, yeah.
I can see that fitting in yours so nicely.
Excellent. So I'm going to start a timer. 15 minutes.
A short pause here while our storytellers write their second act.
One thing worth noticing at this point in an inverted plot pattern, the first act dropped us into the middle of something already in motion. The second act asks us why. It's a different kind of creative pressure, less urgency, more excavation. Two very different stories working through the same narrative goals.
Act 3 is where they'll bring it home to a resolution. We'll see how they land.
How's everyone doing?
Good.
So, how did Act 2 go, Scott?
Yeah, I feel like it took me a little bit to get to introducing the character, but I debated even not having the Herald be a character and just have be like a thing in the world, but we went with the character because it was easier to think about that way in the period of time we had.
Bryce.
Yeah, so this is after them leaving the garden. I just kind of continued the story as is. So you stagger down the street, taking deep breaths, rubbing your body, trying to bring warmth back to your limbs. People walk by, some on their phones, other with friends, and a few give you sympathetic looks. You're used to these gazes, eyes watching your movements, glancing over your ragged clothes and matted hair, making assumptions about the life you live. Fuck them. Today's not them. Their thoughts are the little lies that they think they know their world. It's about figuring out why you're being hunted, why these nightmares seem to be blending into your reality, and why it's always her. You shiver, trying to take a deep breath to steady yourself. You exhale, watching how the cold around your lips makes them visible each breath for half a second before it dissipates into the breeze. It transfixes you, reminding you about the simplicity of your life and how it all comes to a breath and a pulse, that the bustle around you is all driven by the same thing. You close your eyes and focus, feeling your blood move through veins and warm your body. You listen to the ice that formed on your skin begin to crack and drip down your skin, each drop sliding alongside your pores, through the hair and dropping onto the street. In this moment, you remind yourself you are alive, you are here, and you have a goal. To get answers. The questions are still a boggle in your head, and you begin to run through them. It always calms you to run through them. What did I do wrong? What evil did I commit? Whose sin did I take on? Watch out, you hear a cry before opening your eyes to a kid slamming into you on a scooter. You both clatter to the ground, the scooter falling into the street. Sorry, the kid responds, pushing back their helmet. They might be around 12, brown hair bouncing down their neckline. Are you okay? I'm still getting used to these e-scooters, they go so fast. They brush themselves off and rush over to grab the scooter. You pull yourself up and tell them it's okay. Well, it isn't. My mom always told me if you make a mistake, you have to own it. So here I am. I made a mistake. I smashed you with my scooter. I'm sorry. They pause and look you over. Can I buy you a snack or something to make up for it? There it is. The pity. Always the pity, you sigh. It's fine, kid. Just watch where you're going. I gotta go. They seem confused. Hey now, you seriously don't want some food? Because, you kind of look like you could use it. Damn kids with their brutal honesty. You start walking. Wait, I'm sorry. At least let me give you this. They ruffle through their bag and pull out a card. If you don't want food, which I think is silly, by the way, at least let me help you get where you're going. Take this. It's one ride anywhere in town. Just use it to stand there. Put in where you're going to go, and a driver will get you there. If they give you trouble, say that Miko gave this to you. You try to wave them off, but they shove it into your hand. Take it, they glare. Let me make up for my sin. And that's where I got.
Can't wait to hear the end of this.
I don't know where it's going to go.
Yeah. Martin, you had the trickster, and last we saw we were on a spaceship full of ooze.
Yeah, full of ooze, booze, and, moonshine. It had all started with that derelict spacecraft that just wasn't supposed to be there. And up until that point, the sailing had been smooth as can be. Just pick up the cargo from Space Station Elliots and deliver it to this set of coordinates. That's what a tall man had said. Something had been really off about this guy, though, Slim realized through hindsight. The captain had remained unfazed throughout, but Slim kept feeling ill at ease in the company of their fixer for this job. The wide smile and white teeth to begin with. That wasn't natural. That and that unnerving laughter of his. Like it was all a big joke. The captain had tried to reassure Slim, tell him fixers were known for being colorful characters. That was part of the job, some to do with being memorable, and that's, top of mind for runners looking for jobs. Picking up the cargo had been a piece of cake. Show the proper fake forms, wearing the right uniforms, also fake, and load the crates into the cargo hold. Slim had absolutely no idea what the crates contained prior to the incident, that is. But now he knew, of course, an alien life form, no less. But the rules were strict, weren't they? Runners don't ask questions. At least not when it comes to specifics they just don't need to know about in the first place. And then that derelict ship floating out of nowhere. The captain got greedy, and that's what happened. That fixer had been a shrewd negotiator and pay was about half their going rate for fetch and retrieve gigs. And that's why the captain had taken a decision to board the derelict and sweeten the pot, as it were, see if there was anything salvageable. He hadn't counted on the ship's defenses still being up and running, though, had he? Of course not. Slim trusted the captain with his life. That man had made him into a proper runner. He had. But sometimes greed just got the best of him, though, didn't it? Hence the current pickle Slim was in.
That was awesome.
Thank you.
It reminds me of The Expanse, like an amusing expanse. I can almost picture this in that world. That same kind of feeling of mining ships and different things like that, and gray area characters and the moonshine and stuff. Oh,
Yeah.
Real life in space. It's not fantasy life in space.
Yeah.
Awesome.
That's what I've always liked about science fiction in general. Is when you learn about the day-to-day life of people. When you get like the background details filled in, and you get that with, when say some of the what Disney has done with Star Wars is terrible, but with some of them you get like, you get some of that background information that just fleshes in the world. I like that, perhaps even more than the main thing, than the main story arc is nice, but I like the little details.
Yeah, and I like that it's like little. It's not like just like you're just giving me a lore dump for like the entire act. You know what I mean? Like you're just hinting at it, which is great.
It's always so exciting to hear how the guests integrate the new random story card into the second act. It sometimes feels like a challenge at first, but we are always surprised and delighted to find out how the player's imagination works a new element into the plot, often making it feel like the new element was always meant to be there.
Just like the plot line of these stories, the PlotWeaver Cards of Creation platform is expanding and growing, and always getting better with the players' feedback and the lessons we learn along the way. If you want to keep up with the story of PlotWeaver, consider joining the early access mailing list to get first notice of product launches, new features, exclusive updates, discounts, and ways to participate in the upcoming Plane Ponder sessions.
These are hosted live storytelling circles you can join from anywhere in the world. You'll find a mailing list subscription form on the game website at plotweavergame.com.
Now let's dive into Act 3.
Yep, this is awesome. So are we ready for Act 3? This is the cinematic resolution with a newfound understanding. Protagonist, climatic, sorry. Dyslexic, but yes. With a newfound understanding, the protagonist confronts the root of the conflict and reaches a resolution. So our sub-goals are resolve and reflect. That's the final confrontation. You will both be given an object card. I know, Scott, you're probably really excited. What is it going to be? We get a weather vane.
Incredible.
A device that rotates with the direction of the wind, symbolizing foresight, guidance, and change, prediction, monitoring, and adaptation. And Mark Hen, We have a crystal hourglass, a beautiful crafted time device symbolizing the passage of time, the transit or transient nature of moments. Okay. I'm going to set the timer.
A quick question. The object, are we supposed to interpret that as like a physical object in the world, or are we allowed to interpret that anyway? Like,
You can show anyway. This is the great thing about cards of creation is it's a prompt. Whatever you turn it into, there's no right or wrong answer. It's what is nice is actually people taking it in a new way. Okay, here we go. And start.
One more writing pause before the revelation of the final act.
You've now heard 2 acts of 2 very different stories, both built from a handful of random elements. Here's something to hold as we move on. What moment surprised you the most so far? And what do you think happens to your own thinking when creativity has a bit of structure guiding it?
Hold that thought. The final act is next.
There we go. How's everyone feeling?
Awesome.
Oh, in like an hour, you're able to get out a full plot. How you feeling?
That I know, which I like. It's pretty good.
Awesome. So, weather vane and
There we had a weather vane for Scott
And device.
and a time device.
Yeah.
So, Scott,
Yeah.
finish her up.
Yeah, I took the weather vane and I focused on the language of like symbolizing foresight and change. And so I went with that. Trying to bring this into a 3-part arc. We're going to try to wrap it all up. So, if only you knew where to go, you continue down the street, wandering with intent. Perhaps you can go back to where it all started. It would be almost poetic, but you know that there would be no answers there. Instead, you decide to go where you wanted to be. Maybe, just maybe, that's where you can still be. You let another sigh. It's worth a shot. You go to the stand and insert the card. Within a few minutes, a car shows up. 119 Corellian Avenue, please. You tell the driver. Miko said I could use this, and you hand them a card. Of course, sir, they respond, and you begin on your way. You close your eyes, hoping to get some rest, but the moment you look to rest, you feel her eyes watching you, and your sweat begins again to turn to ice. You've had a visible breath, another day awake, I guess. Eventually, the car pulls up, and you get out. 119 Corellian. Before you is a dilapidated church. It's being torn down for construction, but you look around and slip through the fence, walking into the site. This is the place where you were going to build your future. It was a simple church, small, with a main room. You don't have long here, so you walk to the middle of the room and just take it in. You imagine your life, the 2 of you together, happy, walking through the nearby park and coming back here to enjoy the city's sunsets. Maybe one day. Your foot crunches and you look down to see you've stepped on some stained glass. You pick it up, shards of red, blue, and yellow welded together. You look through it and see your future, the home you share, the fresh condo, the open kitchen with exposed brick, a dog sleeping in a corner, and again you feel a tear slip down your cheek. You close your eyes and take it in, to rest in the memory of what could be, only to feel that tear start to become cold. It's her, always her, watching. You open your eyes and look through the glass, rotating from yellow to red to blue, each showing you a different season in this life. Where fall leaves rustle outside the window, where you sip drinks on the balcony to avoid the summer heat, and where you curl together up by a fire to survive the cold winter. It's the life you want, but not the one you deserve. At least that's what she says. You pause. Why should she get the say, the power, the control? Yes, she took on the pain, the sin, the role of evil, but should that stop you from this life? You hear his voice, but not his words. With pain comes pleasure. You take the glass and walk over to the window within which it once sat. Cracked shards of other glass laying on its sill and strapped into the frame. You crawl through, scraping your body, the sweat and tears from the day mixing with the blood as the cracked glass pierces your skin, etching itself into your veins. But you go through, out of the window, and sit, breathing in the air. You free yourself, no longer cold, just yourself. You rest on the side of the building, closing your eyes, and finally catch some sleep.
That was really good. I really enjoyed just the visuals of that story. The shards of glass and everything were such a beautiful introduction into that. And
Yeah, I want to play with like magical realism in that way too. Like, is it actually what they're saying through the glass, or is it purely imaginative? Like, you know what I mean?
or is it a bit of both? Is it kind of like a little bit of the glint of that kind of associates and creates something more? Yeah, that's awesome. Okay. Yeah. So we'll do the reflections after. Sorry, but that was really good. Next, Martin.
Yep.
You ready for your crystal hourglass?
Absolutely. So there was no clean way out of this pickle. No control Z thing, no undo feature. Or was there? Faster than light travel was a dicey proposition still, and for good reason. Activating a ship's warp drive and entering the void was always done with the utmost care. One had to plot their course carefully ahead. Entry point, destination, everything had to be precise. One did not want to disturb any of those creatures lurking in the void. Creatures like those charming gambits, for instance. But one also had to be careful with time distortion. Slim had heard countless stories of reckless space cowboys being protected decades in the future or in the past. But what about creating a time distortion on purpose? Time travel had been abandoned as a whole by humanity as being too dangerous to begin with. But in theory, one could misuse the warp drive on purpose and travel through time. The risk involved were considered too great by most. But Slim had clean ran out of options. He had to fix things. Also, he had a sinking feeling the captain had been vaporized, and his precious molecules were floating in the air along with the who's and the booze. So Slim started wadding towards the warp drive. His decision taken. He would be reckless on purpose. He would be a space cowboy himself, gambling it all. As his hands clutched the red throttle, he uttered a quick prayer to the almighty tech and pushed down on the throttle with force, only to pull it back at the last minute before it fully entered the void. An interrupted space intercourse almost, he thought grimly, but with potentially far more sinister ramifications. Slim felt his stomach lurch as the ship came out of the void it had barely entered. His eyes were shut, and so quite naturally he opened them slowly. Gone was the mess in the cafeteria. He could see that from his position at the helm. Had it worked? That was when he noticed the ship was entirely empty. Everyone had disappeared. And what more? The ship looked shiny and new. Mint. Just like out of the factory. Now, Slim was lost in space and time. Now, that was another pickle. And that's it.
I love the comeback to pickles all the time. It's amazing.
It's the thread.
Yeah, it's so good.
Oh, that was good.
It's actually very fun to do.
Did he go back so far in time that the ship was new and like the captains and stuff? Like he just screwed.
Yeah. Ship is in the factory still, ready to be. He went back too far.
Oh, I'm now wondering like how old is this ship and how many light speed things is it? Like, is he further back in the past than he even realizes because of like light speed? Wow, that's awesome. I love this. Now I want to see the sequel to this. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah, good
That
job.
would be like the cliffhanger, and then you get the second episode. Based on what I do with my
Thank you so much for sharing these.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
I wonder if the pickle, what's that show with the grumpy old, the animation where the grumpy old guy travels through time and yes. Don't they have a pickle character?
There is Pickle Rick. There is a real.
Yeah.
Is there one? Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, he turned himself into basically a pickle version of himself, and then he used rat things to like use like the exoskeleton of a rat or something to charge it up. It's hilarious. Yeah.
Yeah. Some of the genres that work very well with I found with fiction, podcast is the well, I'm trying with the adventure for the younger generation, what I'm doing with my daughter, but you got like a lot of horror, stories, ghost stories, all that jazz, but comedy also, when done nicely, can be something else.
Absolutely. I think both were incredibly strong stories. One of the things that I found tough, of course, was that the moods of both of them were so incredibly different. Like one was so like deep, like it you could feel it like that.
Yeah, the atmosphere, the weight, right? Yeah,
And then the other one was like right up my like science fiction comedy. Like I almost pictured Death, Sex, and Robots, whatever, that show on Netflix. Like I kind of had that feeling too, like there's this dark kind of thing. So both were so good and so rich. And it's, yeah, I really like them. So those were my thoughts. Like I could see both becoming films. Like I could see both very cinematic. Scott, yours I could totally imagine as sequential art, like expressionist rather than realist. You know, like you have kind of almost moments of like feeling of it kind of dripping, like, and because like even with the shards of glass, like I could just imagine like that treatment.
Act one, there was also the sweat and the drips of sweat. Yeah. You nailed magic realism. I think that's all coming from.
Tell my friend that after our debate about it. Yeah, I mean, I agree with you too. Like the tone between the two stories is like vastly different. And like I feel like I didn't plan when I started writing the story for it to get as like abstractly intense as it did. But I kind of really loved how I started to be able to play with kind of like both the visual elements or the idea of like dripping into like the rigidity of like glass at the end, alongside kind of just as I was writing it, I'm like, yeah, there are actual deeper meanings to like what can be inscribed here that I would let a reader just kind of read into whatever they want for their own. Like I was intensely trying to keep it ambiguous with the use, and like I know in that last act I used the word sir, and I'd probably keep that like genderless if I were to like fix it up, just so the story could be more playable or readable for other audiences.
Yeah.
But yeah, comparing that to then like, especially the first time when I finished reading it, like we're in a pickle was like the first time I got from you, Martin. It was like actually really nice to see because like I actually find comedy writing really hard to do. Like I find that to be one of the hardest forms of like narrative writing because how like to make people laugh through text is so much harder, I think, than other mediums. And it was really nice to kind of see that in your piece.
We also wrapped it together too. It was really.
What's that literary device where you underscore the impact or the gravity of something? We have exaggerations, the opposite, I don't know. Like calling that disaster that they have been invaded by like an alien species just a pickle, you know?
Downplay.
Yeah. That's a very good way to kind of surprise people in a comedy. That was pretty awesome.
It actually made it more realistic too, because when you're in the shit, it's not like you're kind of freaking out. Like you, in some ways, you almost normalize it. In some ways, it's normally years later that you realize, wow, I thought out of a big call.
It's true. But this is a comedy comes. That's the one, genre that comes naturally to me. I think I've always been, making people laugh and coming up with that.
With that card. That's it's a good thing we didn't go with like.
No, I got very lucky. I got very lucky on the draw because it's the way that I treated this is kind of similar to the way that I do the podcast. The fiction podcast is I write an episode from beginning to end on a kind of like a typewriter. I mean, it has a little LCD screen with the text, but it's really like a typewriter with physical keys and whatnot. And that's what I type it on. And you can't do edits. There's no mouse, there's no nothing. You can erase character by character, but you can't do rewrites or any of that. It's just get it out of your system. And then I send it to a computer and then I'll, open it in Word or whatnot and, make tweaks and stuff. But it's just one
block of text. That's
He had another guest and he was saying that that's one of the things he does. He has an old typewriter. And for a couple of the stories that he writes just on that because it actually helps him focus.
Physical, it gives a purely intellectual practice. It gives a tactile, physical thing, and you're distraction free, obviously, and it prevents you from doing rewrites all the time. as you're coming up with a story, rewrite, and then you get lost in the details and in the reads. And after too many rewrites, it's just not the same story.
Exactly. Well, that was the point with PlotWeaver. Like, how do you come up with your through line quick and then come back and fill it?
Pass over the details.
Yeah, because
That's
a lot of
something
times
that
you
comes
get
up.
stuck like on just a sentence, and then that's all you're doing for days, where you didn't even figure out what your through line is, right?
That's very interesting that you found the two processes similar, because that's kind of what uh, some other players have found out, that they don't, because of the time pressure and all of that, they don't fuss over the details much. So yeah, to just get the story across.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
I think that pacing and the fact that you only had one more thing each time, like, forces you to fit in, like, what's the core idea that I want to get across here, right? So, like, in Act 1, right, where I'm, like, thinking about my climax, I'm like, I want to set this, like, idea up of this, like, constant haunt that is both psychological and physical. And then in Act 2, when I'm like, okay, there's someone that's supposed to give, like, guidance. But in my head, I'm like, I don't know what that guidance is until you're forced to quickly choose what that is, and then that leads you into that direction. Act 3, I think even say going to Act 3, I'm like, I know what this is going to be, but then you feel like a weather vane. I'm like, yeah, let's think about like futures and not past. And like, because we're on short time, it's like, okay, we're just going to go with it, right? We're just going to write that, see how it feels and what it looks like. And I'm happy with how it came out,
Yeah.
for how short of a time and how directed it ended up being.
That's so great to hear. Something that comes up in feedbacks is the fact that, I mean, with Martin getting a trickster in a comedy, that was really like serendipitous. Yeah, but that comes up in feedback a lot. That the cards kind of merge in, like they fit within their narrative. Did you have that feeling too, that you could bring in the card, the new card? Whichever you want. Yeah.
Yeah, they came naturally almost. It was like I said, got lucky with the draw, but I mean, they they just fit in perfectly.
It's very weird. Like, we've played it through quite a few times now and had other people, and it's weird. Every time they seem to turn out, and there's like 178 cards. There's a lot of combinations, and then the story structures. To your point, Scott, sometimes it's not just one card. It depends on the story structure you have, but sometimes, like, say, parallel plot lines, you're starting out with
6 cards in Act 1.
6 cards in Act 1, and then
Because they're
3
setting
more
up
in
3
2.
timelines. Yeah.
Yeah. And so it becomes this really, like, it's more complex. But even then, people were doing it really well. So we've found that the cards work for the story structures. So I think for yours, like, yeah, it works so well. It's like we've had some real good doozies, but today was really impressive. So thank you.
Your beef on the card, though, like, because that's why I asked, like, does it have to be a weather vane? Because I like the fact that you just have the keywords below it, or just that description of it, where, like, as a like writer, then I can just take the parts of it that I wanted to. Right, like, I pretty much made the weather vane stained glass. Right, is like what it ended up becoming in the actual story. Because I was like, a weather vane seems super random to be like, I'm holding a weather vane. You know what I mean? Like, it didn't fit like directly, but indirectly it did. And I think that's something like great about all the cards. You mentioned like before with the Herald. Initially, I was going to keep the story as a single character the whole way through, because they're meant to be like an orphan was like the starting card, and I was like, I'll stick with that theme the whole way. But I was okay with it in terms of like reading how it's going to change the story, and it allows you to adapt. And like, as someone who's worked with a lot of students, the cards are really good grounding for getting them started. Because if I just told students, I want you to write a magical realist story, they wouldn't know where to begin. But if you're like, this is your setting, this is your plot, just write something around what's happening here, you're going to get something. And it might still be not great, but like, you can workshop it with them. And like, that's what's really nice about this. And like, I've worked with story cubes before, which I think I talked to you about, Miriam, when we last chatted. But like, story cubes are almost still too open-ended for them, that like, this gives you some both text, some visuals, right? Even your visual of the weather vane is not my typical visual of a weather vane. And that helps from a more like abstract writing perspective, which I like to do in the
Yeah. Actually, it's funny you bring it up, because that was one of the points, the inklings that we have. I based them kind of on Inkblot, and like, so my inspiration of drawing it was both Inkblot and cave drawings. So I wanted to make it associative while removing gender or any kind of cultural or bias, any kind of bias. And so we did that as well with the descriptions and everything. We took all the universal story elements we could find, and then we reduced them down to their universal means. Because when we looked at it like from like
To the essence of what they
because if we were looking at like Indian folk stories all the way to like every kind of world stories, and what are things that they all have in common, and then we stripped them down to their essence and we put them into cards, and we almost think of it the same way that like musical notes work. Like you only have 12 halftones, but look at what you can do with music. So it's a very similar thing. So each story structure ends up becoming a different pattern that you can form a plot on. And then those cards help work with it. And so far we've had a lot of luck. But what I like is, to your point, Scott, is we've had people do that where the character that comes in, they actually make that the same character, just it's a different time in the character's life, and they might have been a herald or they might have been something like that. So you can totally use it in any which way you want. And that's the point of the game. We wanted to get away from people telling people what to write, which we saw in D&D and everything like that. It was too like on rails. And the ones that are just a simple prompt, like say Blue or something like Brian Eno's music cards, is just too open. And so this we found was like that happy medium between a blank page and like being like told exactly what to write. So it was more associative than any, I think. So
It's cool.
yeah.
What do you think of the story patterns, the way that they work, and the instructions and everything? Is it helpful to help you get something on the paper?
I found the sub goals the most helpful thing for me to look at, because the main goals still felt a bit overwhelming. Like the idea of like we've reached a solution. I'm like, the story is so short, I don't really want to reach a solution in that traditional sense. But the sub goal of like, for at least Act 3, right? Like, armed with knowledge and insight to make a decisive move to resolve the conflict, like that was what I directed myself for. Where like I left it as like, yeah, there's an ending here, but like there's definitely more you could play with. And so like I liked that kind of range that you offered.
So other than students, you mentioned, Scott, who else do you think you would see yourself playing this with?
Yeah, like I
Or
don't know if
what
I would like
places?
break this out on a Friday night for game night. Like in the same time, I would break out Catan. You know what I mean? Like, 'cause I'm like a board gamer at heart, and like that's what I design avidly. And so like, I don't know if I would bring it into those scenes on a regular basis. But like I have friends who are like, I mean, my sister's an author or like trying to be an author. My roommate is literally getting a book published shortly. Like those are the people that I'd be like, if you're stuck writing, these are directions to think in. Or like when you want to like workshop writing with people, like I think this is a great way to explore those dimensions and directions. I could see a version of it as a game designer if I'm making a heavy narrative game, using this as kind of a starting point. Because like I've also built games where like I have good mechanics, but I have no idea what the story is going to be because I don't really care about the story at that point. And I could be like, let's pull 4 cards and play around with what that means and what that looks like and how we can have that fit into our like other themes that we're trying to get across. Yeah, those are where I would see the most use around my own day today.
Okay. That sounds good, because the one way we also see it is that it's a way of like a modular tool where people can break the rules. Like I'm sure people come up with all kinds of ways to use these cards. We could even use them strategically rather than randomly. Or just put them in front of you and get inspiration in all kinds of ways. So that's awesome. Yeah. So writers are and I mean, Matt says D&D is too, like, at least for me, it's kind of like too written and too violent. So I don't see myself wanting to tell those stories. But with this, I think a lot of I feel like it might make this storytelling a bit more accessible and inclusive. A lot of people could play it without feeling that they have to, do certain things and be in certain locations or settings that they don't want to be.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see this played almost collaboratively, like as opposed to like physically writing the story, but like each of us has one card that we're adding to the story, and that's the piece where like Because I've done like storytelling games where like I have to say like 10 words and you have to say 10 words. And like you could do a much more elaborated version of that where like we're telling a story collaboratively, but each of us only knows certain parts. Like you know the conflict, I know the setting, and we're helping establish that together. Like there could be cool, more gamey versions of that that I could see myself using. I don't know if I would use this specifically for it, but I could see that fitting into that model.
Okay.
Well, we did have like we do have the team version of it, like so you can play in by yourself or in teams. And the parallel plot lines is a really fun one to have 3 people on a team together because they each get their kind of story and they'll have to figure out how to merge them together. So yeah, that's one of those things where you could actually have 12 players play, 4 teams of 3 and they each come up with a story. Or you could do it with improv comics and not even give them the 15 minutes and then just go, right? And so like each person has to do their act. So there's definitely a lot of use cases that we see for this. I'm curious about like why you don't see it as much as of a game that you would play like on a Friday night, like Catan. I'm just curious.
Just because like typically the groups that I play those games with want more intensive mechanics, more directed goals, more like winning and losing. Or this is much more of like almost a solitary act in some ways, and then you're coming together to share. And the types of game communities I'm in, that's less common. Like the closest example I would offer this to that I've played a game with would be something called like the Quiet Year, which is where you're collaboratively map making and telling a story through drawing. And you go one at a time, but like even then turns are only like a minute or two. And like this being like 15-minute turns to create a narrative and then tell it. I just don't know if that was something I would break out on like a Friday night in a true sense. But there is a place for it. Like I could see making like a Saturday morning, we make tea and cookies and we tell stories together. It's just not my typical like Friday night game night. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
That totally
Sets us the time. Yeah.
I actually no, but I also like the fact that you brought up the competition, the mechanics as more of the back and forth quicker. I see where you're going with that. It's a bit more active. It's a bit more like social on a Friday.
More like a show and tell kind of game. Yeah.
Okay. No, I like that. I appreciate that.
I think you need the right players. Also, it depends on the. I also do have game nights with friends, and for some of the games that we play, there's some kinds of players that like to add like they dig the lore. They like to add like a twist to it, as get involved in the story. There's a game we play that's Arkham Horror trading game, collecting card game or whatever. And the mechanics are beautiful. And, some of the players that I've seen online are very good at like mix max minimum, optimizing everything. But the way we play it is we like to add like a narration throughout. Not just play like any cards, but say like give it like some kind of context and build a story like that. Same
You can almost see PlotWeaver with that, like PlotWeaver with our king kind of thing.
So I definitely see this kind of game with that kind of player that likes to do that. Those are also the kinds of players that I would play a role-playing game with, because I know they really get into the storytelling more than and there might be the same players on a given night. Maybe you'd like to play something more something more about I don't want to say an intellectual pursuit, but something more of a convoluted game with complex mechanics. And other times we just feel like telling a good story.
Yeah.
So yeah.
On that note, I would say that like, I could see myself doing this instead of a D&D night. Like I could see myself doing a thing where I give each player a character card. We collaboratively reveal the other kind of setting conflict cards, and then I'm like as a DM telling that story with them, with their characters. And like if we ever have, broken moments, flipping over cards to reveal different, conflicts or things to go through. Because I've done like D&D nights where we're not actually playing, like I call them D&D, role-playing game nights is what we really call them, where like I've literally sat down and been like, just tell me what you want to play as and we're going to make it a game. Like we literally just made it up on the spot, and this would be just a more structured version of that that could be useful. So I could see it in that case as well, to kind of just add on to what Mark was saying.
Well, thank you very much. This was really fun. That was awesome to hear your stories.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
That's a wrap on our first episode of Play and Ponder with PlotWeaver Cards of Creation. Thank you to Scott DeJong and Marty Handfield for their stories and for the conversations that came out of them. If this episode sparked something for you, we'd love to have you join us. Visit plotweavergame.com to explore the platform, sign up for early access, or keep an eye on upcoming Play and Ponder sessions. All the links are in the show's notes.
At MobHop Cooperative, we design tools that help people practice the skills machines can't automate: storytelling, emotional intelligence, creative imagination, and meaningful connection. Thank you for listening. Keep creating and keep hobbing.